my friendship with you guys, and I say this in the most endearing way, has been one of the most challenging things in my life.
So, not that it relates to the conversation this week, but the past week, Doey hinted at this multiple times already this episode. We did some conflict resolution. Here's a bit of the views behind the scenes. We did a phone call last Saturday. I was fairly tipsy at a bar. We did a video chat to resolve some conflicts that had popped up in our little group here. And it got me thinking. There's a lot of things actually this past week that got me thinking about forgiveness in general and how you move past issues that you have with other people.
Can you tell that we're toxic?
You can use these situations even in your personal life, in my opinion, in the way I took it, and the way that I took these situations that we have talked about and being progressive and healthy in our relationship towards each other. I've also looked back at my prior relationships with other people, and I've realized that maybe I could have been a better person in those relationships.
So to get a little bit more specific, in the last week, the thing that I saw go off on Twitter that actually made me like really start thinking that this is a topic that I was interested to see what y'all thought about, was there was a reformed Nazi on Twitter that was upset because the left community had not welcomed him with open arms or something, and they were like, "Well, I renounced those views, so why am I not welcome in your party here on Twitter?" And a lot of people were chiming up that there is no such thing as a reformed Nazi. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. A lot of absolute statements. And I'm just curious to pick y'all's brains about that kind of.
Obi-Wan Kenobi said only a Sith deals in absolutes.
That's a good point.
So,
I also.
Are you fucking Darth Maul and Darth Vader, or are you Luke Skywalker? I don't know.
No, I agree. But there's things like you gotta like look at it as the whole picture, like kind of thing. Like IBM, the people who we buy our chips from nowadays, helped the Nazis document all the Holocaust immigrants and all the people that were in the ghettos. IBM was the one who helped Germany out.
Is this a fact?
Yes, it is.
Damn, I'm a child of the computing world. I'm a computer man. I've never heard. This is a new report for me.
Fact. So it's
the sound
like,
of me googling new information.
Do we allow them to continue producing our computer chips because they've committed what we would consider an atrocity in the past, or do we forgive these people and move forward?
So I think that man, and this feels like a fucked up statement to say. I think that forgiving or not forgiving a corporate entity is actually harder than forgiving or not forgiving an individual, and that feels wrong. that feels backwards.
And or country, because we have to forgive the country as well, and the ideology that led that country to those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Huh. We've hinted at this multiple times. Like this has been the theme on this episode, the past two episodes, I guess, if that's how we end up cutting it. Is reparations is a form of like apologizing. Cuomo's sexual assault or sexual harassment allegations or sexual impropriety allegations, whatever the actual correct term is to encompass everything that's been leveraged against him. How do you forgive that? Can you forgive that? To get a little partisan on that, the Republican Party doesn't seem to give a shit about forgiveness or not forgiveness. It doesn't matter. There's a video came out that straight up where that man said that he could grab him by the pussy, and people still voted for that man in huge numbers, gigantic numbers.
What's wrong with you? That's fucking locker room talk.
Yeah,
that's just boys being boys.
It's fucking locker room
men
talk.
being men.
Why would they
let the boys be boys, Mateo?
Why would they even use that talk if that was a thing, though?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like those. It's like those Twitch streamers that they drop the N-word on their stream, and they're like, "Oh man, It was just heat of the moment. That basketball player recently that he used the Jewish slur against people. And you know what? That slur he used was such a deep cut racial slur to use against someone.
I don't even know. I feel like I remember the context. I just don't remember the slur.
Someone sniped him, and he used a Jewish slur, which I'm not going to repeat.
It's
K?
It's with a K.
Okay.
And that is such a deep cut.
I remember that.
He got suspended. Like there were consequences. But you know what? His excuse is that he didn't know that was a slur. But that is such a deep cut slur to use against someone that you have to be a racist or a minority that hears a lot of slurs used against you and other people of color to know that particular slur.
Exactly. It had to come within his family or whoever taught him how to be. That slur had to come how it came to fruition.
I don't necessarily agree with that because I feel like if you watch not to give the man any kind of defenses, but I grew up in I'm a first generation American, right? I'm born in this country. My parents aren't, but I have brown skin. My brothers have brown skin, and we grew up in the ghetto. So we have a certain lived experience. But when you grow up, so I don't have any white people around me that hate like Jewish people in any sense of the word or anything like that. But when you grow up watching mafia movies, these Italian motherfuckers that are in these movies, they're racist pieces of shit. And yeah, you will find a number of Sicilians in these movies that will make racist and lewd remarks against certain demographics, specifically Black and Jewish communities, as well as Irish people. They're really the three groups of people that mafia people, I'll say, stereotypically, I'll say, because again, I'm quoting movies here, so I don't know what anybody really thinks here, right?
Yeah, go back and watch Goodfellas. count the racial slurs they use.
Count the N words, the K words, and the all the words and the words against the fucking Irish people. There's a lot of language that we hear that we pick up in different communities. For whatever reason, us people in the ghetto communities, we love Scarface, we love Goodfellas, we love the fucking Godfather, we love just all these movies about rags to riches stories, people that ain't got no business being rich, getting rich. So we identify with these people, we pick up their mannerisms, we pick up their language, and we turn out to say some fucking super racist or xenophobic shit because we don't necessarily know all the baggage that comes along with that language. I say all of that to say that, yeah, I've known the term, I've used the term, not thinking that it was as bad as the internet has informed me it to be, right? So when I hear that it's a deep cut, it sounds like you got to be plugged in to these racist ass communities to know that. But all I got to hear is like, all I got to listen to is Sonny from Casino say some bullshit. And I'm like, all right, Sonny said it, it's the truth.
That's fair. My point is that it's a deep cut to keep like on deck. It's a deep cut to like have just ready to go, just locked and loaded and in the chamber, Mm-hmm. But I mean, the greater conversation is, what would be an appropriate response to that? What would be an appropriate request for forgiveness? Because we see a lot of these celebrities that get caught in this kind of thing, and they just seem to have like a boilerplate like template response of. And it's usually a non-response. It's usually I'm sorry if I offended X community with my words, and like
my favorite response to some bullshit is Kevin Spacey. He's straight. As far as I'm aware, from the words that I've read, he straight raped somebody that was under the influence. He came upon somebody, and somebody who wanted to in the industry and all that kind of stuff. So someone who has all the reason to allow someone to take advantage of them, he came on that person, he took advantage of him. And I'll preface all this to say that Kevin Spacey, prior to this, one of my all-time favorite actors. I love a lot of his movies and all that shit. And this has tainted a lot of my favorite movies and things like that. But man, his response was abysmal. Like, given the allegations, he just comes out and he's just like, yeah, I might have done those things, but I'm gay. So like, I'm woke with y'all. And it's like, damn, dude, like, I don't think it works like that. Like, you're a piece of shit regardless.
Like
I think in his defense, which is probably not a good thing to be in his defense, I think once again, there's maneuvers and maybe they're not healthy, and maybe we have to have that discourse on them that gay people have, gay men, that maybe isn't productive or acceptable in our society. And maybe gay men have maneuvered in a way in the past that is not acceptable in society today. And I feel those things are very prevalent in the issues that we have with how people go about how they're maneuvering in there, whether it be heterosexual, gay, whatever they work in. I feel like a lot of those views are outdated, and we're in a modernism world still trying to use predated things to gain what we want.
So not to associate you with anybody, right? That's not. I'm not trying to do all that. But what you just said is effectively Kevin Spacey and Milo Yiannopoulos' defense against Milo is just straight up like, yeah, like old gay people raping little kids into being gay. That's
it's
like
just a rite of passage.
Normal thing that happens. A rite of passage for all gay kids in the and it's like, dude, like, like I ain't gay. So I can't talk to y'all, but man, that shit don't sound right. Like,
it's a weird flex. It's a real weird flex.
But you can't also take away from his truth. Like if that's his truth,
you can.
Sure. No, well, I think like maybe in his experience, he might have had a relationship with an older person that he found valuable. I think it's wrong to try to project that on everybody.
I think
that this is a normal thing and it's very good. This is a good thing that happens, and it's a very valuable thing that happens for all gay kids.
I think you need to also evaluate like why it's not a good thing to extrapolate onto other people is because there's some aspect of grooming there. Like, I don't know. Once you have 20 years on someone, when someone's 20 years your junior, you've got some influence on that person. Whether you think you do or not, like you are a more established adult and someone is going to look up to you and you have an influence on that person. And there's a lot of tricky things that you have to maneuver and navigate if you're in that kind of relationship. I don't think all of them are necessarily toxic, but I think a good chunk of them are because most people don't keep those things in mind. And they don't take those into consideration, that they're basically dealing with someone that they were a full-on adult before that person was ever born.
I think even your 20 years is very fucking generous. I feel like at various stages of my life, right, when I was 15, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, I thought that I was the biggest fucking dumbass in the world. When I looked back and I said, damn, like, I fucking believed, like, some fucking bullshit. Like, I watch a movie like Zeitgeist, and I'm like, yeah, 9/11's an inside job. And I'm like, damn, I can't believe I spent years of my life believing some stupid fucking bullshit.
I remember the first time we met, we got drunk, and I don't know if this is after Brooklyn Ale House or not, or the Bronx Ale House or not. We argued about 9/11 that night. We were doing shots of J-Mo and we were arguing about 9/11 that night for sure.
I don't know what the details were, but I guarantee you that anything I was saying was just fucking stupid. and maybe I'll grant it. You're like 3, 4, 5 years my senior. Like, I feel like with time comes maturity. And you realize how stupid and how fucking susceptible you are to stupidity. This is a major digress. But I feel like it's also important to realize how susceptible, how stupid, how gullible people are into believing certain things, that you have to realize that at some point when a person like me, right? There was years in my life where I listened to Ben Shapiro and he was talking the most transphobic shit in the world. And I thought, yeah, a man's a man and a woman's a woman. What's controversial about that? And those were my real beliefs at the time with doing zero research. This is called ignorance, right? At what point do you say, actually, this guy might be a net good on society, and we need to forgive these previous stupidities, transgressions, these acts, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that he was a certain way, and moving forward, he's this other way, and we need to try to figure out how to draw a line and differentiate those two things into the fact that this person might be for the cause. You know what I'm saying?
So maybe this is the cop out, and because this is my answer to a lot of our big questions on here. But I firmly believe this is
communication is key.
It's communication is key, man. Because not to brag on us too much, but I have bragged about our little group text because I think that us four might be one of the healthiest guy relationships that I have with other males.
Dude, I was gonna say we gotta be the toxic. I was gonna ask you last night. Are you, deadass? Last night I was gonna ask, like, why are we even friends? Like, should I question if we should ever even be friends?
Yeah, for real.
I feel like we're so toxic.
So here's what I appreciate. I'm curious to hear what Doey appreciates too. Is the top left guy here? He's good. He's got a little priority over me.
Got the top left opinion, you know.
But
the toppest and the leftist. I mean, it's the rightist.
So here's what I appreciate about us. Y'all communicate. I don't know if this is because we're all brown. We're all people of color, and people of color traditionally are passionate. And I don't think that's all racial stereotypes are wrong. People of color tend to, especially of our particular colors, tend to be passionate. We tend to be a little bit more open with our feelings, or at least a little bit more open to showing our feelings, like showing like when there's hurt and when there's anger. I appreciate that y'all communicate that shit clearly. I like the post argument shit that we do, where everyone is like speaking their what is the term now? Speaking your truth. Mm-hmm. You speak your truth. You let someone else speak their truth. I think obviously we run into some bumpy roads there sometimes because we definitely have some arguments that have been completely unresolved. Like the argument is ended, but there's no actual resolution to that argument.
Every single day. Hey, Tony will tell you, the argument is deaded. Why are you bringing it up? I said, it ain't dead to me, motherfucker.
That's my whole point. If we set our differences,
but
move on.
What's that, Tony?
No. Let's let Mateo talk.
But I appreciate that there's at least the avenue for communication exists. Like the option exists to discuss this shit. It's not like with some of my other friends where it's like, we just don't discuss this thing because this thing is going to lead to people being pissed off and it's going to lead to bad feelings. So this thing is just, it stays in this box and we bury this box and then we put this box in another box and then we put that box in another box and then we smash it with a hammer, you know?
Because with every entrance of the box, you know what you're getting into. You're like, okay, we've been down this road and it's been very ugly and we haven't really situated this situation. My friendship with you guys, and I say this in the most endearing way, has been one of the most challenging things in my life. But it's so challenging that when it's not there, I look for it. I look for, why aren't my friends challenging me? Why aren't I moving up in the social skill ladder? Like, I want to move forward and become progressive, and I want to understand where my fuck ups lie and maybe where my ideologies and opinions as us. I grew up very Christian, very conservative, so I might think a traditional relationship is what's supposed to be right, but that might not be what's right in now. And I appreciate the challenge, the level of challenge that I get from you guys. And as much as that makes me upset, it keeps me in it because I'm like, there's something to learn here that that hasn't clicked with me.
The problem with people is fear. Fear of having conversations. Fear of having conversations with somebody and worrying about how that could affect them more than you trying to actually help them. Like, if I didn't want to ask you certain questions the way because I was fearful of how you would react and I didn't want to hurt you or whatever, which is valid, but there's ways of doing it, right? But if I was like, no, I don't want to discuss things with Doughboy or David because of how he would take it because he's sensitive in some aspects of that thing or whatever. Fuck that. I am going to tell you exactly, yo, you're fucking up, just like Pucho does to me almost day-to-day basis. Yo, you're fucking up. What you're saying is probably not socially acceptable. This, that, and the third. I'm still going to have my opinions on it. Some of it I will change. Like, when I first met Pucho to now, I'm a different person.
Absolutely.
Like,
even when you've met me.
Like, yeah, would you call yourself a better person?
Was the biggest piece of shit I ever met in my entire life. I wanted to kill this motherfucker.
Like, I was definitely 100% pure dick, right?
Nah, bro. The fact of the matter is that when you grow up, first generation cultures, you bring a lot of baggage from the mother country, man.
Generational trauma, man. That's
Dude, I'm gonna be straight up with you. My parents Dominican through and motherfucking through. All right, we share a border with Haiti. A lot of Dominican people don't like no Haitian people. All right, and that just straight up equates to other black people don't like other black people for some reason. Like, and then you gotta like try to grapple with those beliefs, and then you encounter other Haitian people, and you go, wait a minute, like I mean, I know these people. They act pretty normal from my perspective. And then you're like, hold on, maybe and all that to say is like, my parents are not racist, like in the sense that like they're not hateful towards anybody or anything like that. But like, there are certain things that make you like think like, man, like certain interactions and things like that you go like, huh, like I was raised a certain way. And I have these guttural reactions to things that may be wrong. And like, you got to address those things. Like, I grew up super hardcore Catholic, right? So what that means is like trans people out the motherfucking door. Homophobia all day. Like that, like that's how I'm raised. Like, trans people don't exist. It's not real. And homophobia is the rite of passage, right? And then like you grow up a little bit. Like I feel like I mentioned it recently. Like I watched that movie Rent. No lie, it's super stupid to say. I feel super ignorant saying it because it seems so simple. But
no. Entertainment and media is so important.
Yeah,
it's stupid how important it is.
And I say that all day, but being the subject of the statement makes me feel so dumb. Like I watched the movie Rent, and you got the character Collins and Angel. They're so fucking in love. They're so in love. I love Rent. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'll sing all the songs. Me and my wife, we love this shit, right? Just to show how far a homophobic person from young has come, right? I'm not gay. And I have very few gay friends, right? But I'll fight for gay rights. Like, straight up. Because to me, that shit is human rights. Like, that shit is just people wanting to be people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it gets to the crux of the conversation of, am I a piece of shit for growing up Catholic? By no choice of my own, am I a piece of shit?
Think about it. If you're advocating,
I would say yes.
Even in the most libertarian aspect, if you're advocating for gay rights, you're advocating for the rights of everyone in this country to be able to practice. And we are a free country. We have our beliefs. We're gonna believe in this, and this is what we're gonna practice. And I feel like everybody has that expression and belief in this country.
It might be crazy to say, but I believe religion brings a lot of bullshit into what society views. And my problem with religion is, yes,
Tony's got a good point. But before he progresses, though, hey, happy Easter, everyone!
Oh wow!
I have enough alcohol. Is that enough?
I'll consider that enough.
All right,
I
I'm
got
gonna
a
support
Swish.
another one though. By the way,
not that I actually celebrate Easter or anything.
Dad life. I got a hat, Pucho, that says Dad life, just like that. Emily got me. Maybe
this
we
is
should-
hashtag Dad life.
Yeah, that's what it is on my hat. But
Okay, Tony.
No,
religion.
I'm sorry I cut you off.
That was the one up. You got Dad life. I got hashtag.
No one caught the one up. I'm telling you, I'm a one-up master when I don't want to be. This might be my special ability to one-up the next person. Or maybe my life is so great, so fantastic that it's always on.
So majestic.
So majestic.
Ooh.
Damn.
That's beast, right?
So
to say that's some beast that shit.
phantasmagoriastic.
And that also,
How about in my opinion,
All right,
all right, back to the religion.
I just want to cut. I'm gonna cut you off real quick, and I'm gonna let you talk next. I just want to make sure, because the question is a question of forgiveness, and I feel like there's a lot of spilling out life lessons and feelings and upbringings, and the question is, should a person, like all of us in some respects, because we all have different upbringings, different life experiences. We have, some of us have gay, bi, trans siblings that have grown up with different methodologies and life lessons and all that type of shit. Should any of us be forgiven, and why? And what's the cutoff? Who of us should not be forgiven?
I think the people who should not be forgiven are child rapists.
Damn.
People who that's
So-
this is my opinion. There's certain things that are
No,
unforgivable.
I was just sorry. The child rapist is just strong.
That's-
It's nowhere near the topic of conversation. But continue.
No, we're
Yeah,
saying
I'm
forgiveness. We're saying forgiveness. There's levels. There's levels of forgiveness.
So let's take a low level, okay? Let's take a low level, Tony.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna even cut my tail off. I'm a piece of shit today. I'm on my doughy shit. All right.
That's a fact.
Here's the question. What are your beliefs? Oh, doughy, don't ask.
Yeah, my nigga.
All day, every
Edward
day. This is the most
Scissorhand over
toxic
there.
shit. You want to get into fucking Facebook Messenger fucking argument? All right, let me stop. All right. All jokes aside. All right. This is when Mateo brought up forgiveness, right? This is really Mateo's topic, right?
Yeah.
You saw this show on Twitter, you want to talk about it, right? My main thing is this, right? There are people who have beliefs, like me, that I believe no matter what you do, no matter how harsh, no matter how bad, I believe in rehabilitative justice.
Redemption.
I believe that a human is capable, for the most part, of being treated in such a way that they could come back to society after some period of time and be functioning. They could exist within society.
And I think we're pretty linked on that, because as I've gotten older, I don't know that I believe in the death penalty. I don't know that I believe that there's anything you can do that is so bad that you should be killed as a result of that.
Oh, I disagree. And that's horrible of me. I think like no, I'm wrong. I don't believe in the death penalty, but I
think it's few and far. I think I think the burden of proof to prove that someone is such a risk to society that they can't be rehabilitated. There's no redemption path for this person. I think that the burden is so high to prove that I don't think that the death penalty should exist.
Right. I have a strong opinion. I think it's impossible.
I think once you glorify it that much, like, oh, he did so bad that he has to get this. I think that people start to try to reach for that. I think
mine isn't even that. I think as pessimistic as I am in a lot of things, I think that people can change. I think that's all it comes down to. I think it comes down to whether you believe people can change or not.
But that has nothing to do with forgiveness.
We're talking about mass, in my opinion, mass suicide, mass killers. No, those people need to be put to sleep.
That's not.
Those people need to be, in my opinion,
No,
at
I'm saying
that
that's not
level.
what Mateo's not. He's
No,
disagreeing
that's
with
what he's talking
Mateo
about.
right
Mateo
now.
thinks that a person like fucking Summer Sam ass motherfucker, he could be rehabilitated in such a way that he could function.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's
society.
disagreeing
No,
with
I think-
Mateo's idea right now.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
he
Yeah.
disagrees.
Okay, yeah.
I think that the guy that committed the atrocities in Las Vegas, that guy can never be redeemed. There's
Perfect.
nothing that he could do in his lifetime that could ever redeem him from what he did at that event.
So
Okay.
my thing.
So I think that's wait, hold on. I think that's a very important factor there, because I think that's where the crux of the argument lies, is that people feel, and this is me giving a lot of charitability to these Twitter lefty communists, as anarchists, whatever people that I'm not a big fan of. Okay. I mean, this is where me and Mateo bump heads, right? Because where we lie are kind of like at the borders of these regions where we right. I think personally, right, that a person who does a thing that's wrong with enough rehabilitation, with an infinite amount of time, right?
And
Infinity is
resources.
impossible, and resources, that person could be rehabilitated, right?
And sometimes that rehabilitation is going to take the form of medication and other things of that nature, like because people have chemical imbalances in their fucking brain, and like there's a lot of aspects to consider here. We're talking a hypothetical. Obviously, Pucho and I are talking a hypothetical. We're talking an ideal world. We're talking a utopia where you can actually spend this amount of time and resources and on individuals, and the system isn't broken, where we just need to move bodies as fast as possible through the legal system and through various aspects of that.
Right now, as a society, right, we have a view of what's called as punitive justice, which means someone does bad thing, they should be
Punish
punished.
them.
That's what punitive means, right? They should be punished to a certain extent that matches whatever wrongdoing that they've committed, right? I believe that this is a toxic view. It doesn't get to the crux of the issue. And as we hinted to on a previous episode, our recidivism rates do not match with the fact that punishment equates to good behavior. People get out of prison, and given the opportunities and the options that they have, they go back to crime and they do wrong things and they go back to jail.
Yeah.
So whatever punishment you gave them the first time did not work for them to stop doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do the second time around.
And these are the statistics that racists love.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, look at all these black and brown men that are recommitting crime. You know why? Because they're predisposed to committing crime because they're black and brown. Like, it's this circular logic nonsense in this system that they created that determines what kind of people we are and how worthy we are of redemption.
So
I think there's a serious issue, especially in that world, that especially the mentally ill and people who cannot take care of themselves. There's nothing to do with them in our society.
Yeah,
There's
but almost all mentally ill people have some form of medication that if they kept up with it and they kept up with therapy and they kept up with the number of prescriptions that their psychiatrists and doctors offer them, if they had the resources and the money to do so, that they could ultimately be some form of functioning member of society. I'm
agree.
not saying everybody, I'm saying almost everybody.
But that's not always what happens, and that's a very
Correct.
big. If you see it the most in New York.
Well, I mean,
You see every bum in America, and I say bum not in a term to degrade anybody, because again, I'm a ghetto fucking bastard. So I'm just using the words that I grew up with, and I'm not advocating for these things. When you look at the homeless, right? A lot of homeless people represent a sector of society that have mental illness such as PTSD, anxiety, depression. They're drug addicts. These types of people, they do not fit in our society. Why? Because in our society, these people need to be locked into an asylum. They need to be locked in prison for being addicts, or they just need to die via death penalty. That's the way that our society treats these people, but it ain't right. These people need medication, they need psychiatrists, they need work programs, they need ways to rehabilitate these people back into society. And it makes me very uncomfortable when someone says, my most uncomfortable thing is when someone says, oh, X person raped a person. Right? And then they go, oh, yeah, I believe in rehabilitative justice. I want people to be, but I can't wait till they go to prison and they get fucked in the ass by blah, blah, blah. And it's like, damn, what the fuck?
It's like, no, that's not rehabilitation. That's Solomon shit right there. That's the role of Hammurabi right there.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, like you want people to get fucked in the ass for doing some wrong thing. It's like, that's fucked up. Like they are bad. They are bad people right now.
It's
feel that way though.
Yeah. I don't think it's right. I'm in the minority of people.
It doesn't make it right. And like me personally, honestly, like, man, I will tell you, those Korean revenge films are some of the best movies. They're some of my favorite movies where someone gets done wrong. Like usually they kill their wife or they kill their kid or they kill their family or something. And then they spend the entire rest of the movie just fucking them up. Just enacting violence and justice on them. Justice. Let's do some air quotes there.
So, Mateo.
But I don't think in the real world that it shit actually works. I think it's entertaining popcorn movie nonsense where you get to live out you get to see this fantasy of, and now I feel better. I think a lot of the Korean revenge films do a good job of showing that even after this person gets their revenge and get what they want, they usually have this come to Jesus moment where they're like, I still am not happy, because revenge doesn't make you happy. And that's why I believe in rehabilitation, is because that true justice doesn't exist. Justice doesn't exist. I couldn't kill your daughter and then you kill my daughter and now we're both square. We're good. like life goes on, because that's not the way it works.
So going back to forgiveness, you saying that you can forgive people for their crimes or their wrongdoings, right?
I think for me personally, I haven't had to forgive anyone for a crime against me, knock on wood and all that fun stuff. I'm curious about this from all kinds of aspects. With us specifically, just because I do enjoy the way that this particular group handles conflict resolution, I'm curious what forgiveness is for you. Like, let's say I wronged you. Let's say I crossed one of your Tony's uncrossable lines.
So before we get into
do you believe in forgiveness? Do you believe in redemption? Because those two are slightly different things. You can forgive someone without feeling like you've actually redeemed themselves. Like there's a slight distinction.
Yeah.
So before we go, hold on, Doughboy, hold on. I've been trying to fucking talk, and y'all, let me just get this out.
Are you saying that I've been
Joey, let Tony talk for a second here, because he's been trying to talk for a little bit.
Tony hasn't been able to talk at all.
So I literally want to ask you this. You're saying that you are able to forgive after they go through to the proper process and procedures of their wrongdoings. You're saying you're able to forgive, Mateo.
No. I am saying that I believe that person can be rehabilitated. I think rehabilitation is different than forgiveness when you're talking about from a legal perspective.
Not legal. I'm talking about you. If you was wrongdoed by somebody.
In what way? Are we talking?
I kill your mother.
Okay.
Right? Dramatic ass shit, right? I kill your mother. I go through the proper procedures and the process and reformed or whatever. You will forgive me?
I think that I would hope. That's a situation I've never been in, and I hope I am never in, where someone kills my mother and I have to make this distinction. But I think that I would personally hope that you are capable of being rehabilitated. I think that forgiveness itself in that particular situation, because it is such an extreme, I think that forgiveness is between you and whatever creator you may or may not believe in.
So you will not forgive. Back to the you will not forgive.
In that extreme situation, I don't know what the path for forgiveness would be.
There will be none.
Because I think forgiveness is a dialogue.
I have a good one. and it's very personal. When my brother died, there were people present in the house when he was ODing, and a lot of the post-traumatic stress like comes from those people being in the house while he was there, and them not checking on my brother. And a lot of people could say that's none of their business. If somebody's sleeping in the next room, you allow them their private space to sleep. And I agree with that. And for a long time, I had this conflict internally as I am my brother's keeper. I hold that situation differently than other people would hold it. If I saw my brother in a room for 10 hours, I would go check on him. But that's because he's my brother, and I would check on him in that way. I can't hold other people to my standards of what a brother should do or what a friend should do. And for a long time, I blamed those people, and I use them as an excuse, as, oh, they didn't do something, and it's the wrong way to heal.
I heard some of that anger way back when, like when that was that wound was a little bit more fresh. I definitely heard some of that anger.
Yeah, it's not what I believe now. If it was what I believed in back then, I probably need to apologize to those people, because it came from a place of like extreme hurt and a very tender spot that was being touched, and you don't really understand how to deal with that situation. You know what I mean? But I say now, just for those people, if they're listening, like, I completely forgive you. It's not anybody's fault. It's very misfortunate things that happen in people's lives, and it's not anyone's fault in particular, you know?
So I think Doey actually answered part of my question. Is that for him that's a huge level of forgiveness there. That's a huge level of redemption, honestly, which relates to my Twitter thing, because like, this is the shit that pisses Pucho off about some of leftist Twitter, is these purity tests of once a Nazi, always Nazi. You're tainted. You're banned. You're branded for life. But what is the alternative? Like, is the alternative like, you've ever been involved in Nazi philosophy? Now we murder you. Like, now we execute you, because that's not the party that I want to be part of. I think just by the philosophy itself, I have to believe that redemption exists in those extreme situations.
No, there could be redemption, but you're just not you're not willing enough to forgive.
Well, redemption and forgiveness are two separate things. I think this is where they're getting lost in the weeds in the discourse that I watched on Twitter. I don't personally have to forgive you for being a Nazi and having hateful philosophies towards me because I'm brown, because I'm darker than you, or whatever. Redemption is something else. Forgiveness is a personal thing. Redemption is something else. You can renounce those philosophies. You can start pushing against those philosophies, and you can start trying to turn people outside of that lifestyle. And I think that is a path to redemption. I think there is absolutely a path to redemption there. Whether there's a path to forgiveness or not, though, is that is a conversation with you and every single person that you run into in your life.
So you're not down for an eye for an eye, right? You disagree with that?
I don't think it actually fixes anything.
No, it doesn't.
What does that mean? Sorry, just to get the crux of your question. What do you mean if you disagree with that?
Like, you don't believe with the whole process of an eye for an eye, revenge?
I mean, do you
whether or not
you're not. Your question isn't answering my question.
You didn't. What question was your question?
Well, I said, what do you mean by whatever the fuck? So now you're saying an eye for an eye, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm asking.
Yeah.
What does that mean if you don't believe in an eye for an eye?
Like, do you all right, believe, take the word believe. Do you agree with an eye for an eye?
He's talking redemption versus punitive punishment.
Sorry, because okay, let me just get down to the nitty gritty, right? Me and Tony have more disagreements than anyone could ever imagine on planet Earth. I don't even know how we're friends at this point, because we fight over every single fucking thing, right? But
Not
for whatever
everything.
reason, we're friends. It works for us. We like to fight. That's our personality. We're fighters, right? But a question like Mateo, right? In my view, when Mateo answered, I don't know, man. I've never been in that situation. I don't know how it'd be if you killed my mom. I don't know. I'd like to believe. To me, that's a very, in my view, a very wishy-washy answer for me.
Oh, it is.
Think about this, Tony. Imagine, right? How many times did I tell you you're wrong for doing a thing, right? A lot, right?
Yes.
And how many times do you then tell me, hey, man, but some other day you did that same thing?
Yeah.
Right. And how often did I tell you, yeah, I was wrong for that?
Yep. You said it the first time yesterday or the day ago.
Last night we got into a fight that played out exactly the same way, where I told you, you're a piece of shit for doing XYZ thing. And you say, yo, you did an XYZ thing. And I say, yeah, motherfucker, I'm a piece of shit. In different words, right? And all that to say, I don't think asking a person a very personal question, right, in that sense is the right approach, right? Because I would tell you, I would not want society to operate on the code of Hammurabi, which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
You do the same thing,
Huh?
You do the same thing in conversations. You use drastic measures in conversation to wield your point of view onto somebody else. You do that a lot.
I think you're using my arguments in a wrong way, but I'm gonna get somewhere where I think you'll agree with, even though you're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm wrong for what you do.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just finish, right? I would not want society to operate in a form of a code of Hammurabi, right?
Yeah.
Which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If someone goes and hurts my brother, I get to hurt their brother or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
But I would do that thing. I could acknowledge the contradiction within my heart, which is I want to do the thing that I know is wrong. I know it's wrong. But I know that not to tap into our earlier conversation where we're talking about what makes a man and a woman a woman. I am a man that's very emotional, unbelievably so. Someone says something, it hurts me. When I watch a sad movie, I cry like a fucking baby. And when someone wrongs me, you're my greatest enemy. I want to wrong you more than anyone has ever been wronged before. That's how I operate, right? But I acknowledge that's not the healthiest way for society to exist. If you kill my mother, I can't even express the words of the type of revenge that I want to enact on you, right? Mm-hmm. But I also acknowledge that is not the way that a society should behave, and it's not the society that I want. Well, my statement previously is very selfish. I want to be the only person that's capable of doing the type of revenge that I think is right, because I'm me. I'm the god of my universe in my head, right? Like, I think I'm right. Everything I decide is correct. Any wrongs that anyone does, I know the exact answer, and I could enact the correct justice.
You're like a Viltrumite.
Yeah, I'm a Viltrumite. I will Viltrumite punch you, and you guys don't even know how drastic that punch is, okay? Because you guys are only 4 episodes in, and I've read 150 issues of this goddamn, my favorite comic of all time. And when I tell you that a Viltrumite punch is the most destructive thing anyone could ever do in the goddamn universe of comic books, I'm telling you that a Viltrumite punch will end your entire fucking career of any other thought that you could ever think of ever, okay? So, and with that being said, I acknowledge that Mateo not being able to tell you what type of thing that he would want to do in response to someone murdering his mother, I think his response is wishy-washy. I'd kill that motherfucker. That's my view. And I also acknowledge and I agree with you that that's just straight up wrong.
No, it is wrong.
The correct thing is to take that person who did that wrong thing and to put them through whatever type of rehabilitation is required to make them a functioning member of society, because I think that would be the net good on society, but that wouldn't change my feelings. If I saw that person, I still might do whatever wrong thing that's in my heart, and then I deserve to go through whatever process to change my view. And maybe that's why you need pre type of psychiatry, pre type of treatment to deal with the type of trauma that's involved with the type of pain that people go through when things go wrong.
That's my point, though.
Very one good input, and I'm just gonna throw this in there. Recently, there was a versus between Gucci Man and Jeezy. Jeezy sent somebody to kill Gucci Man. And it was very apparent that on stage, that shit was still playing out. As much as those people got together and said, we're going to do this and we're going to have this verse.
Wait. The man actually hired like a hitman to kill this person?
Allegedly.
To kill Gucci.
I don't want to interrupt you as well, but I want to know how this comes full circle because I've never hired a hitman.
No. It's the same thing, in my opinion, as saying, why can't Gucci Man grow forward? How come Gucci Man can't be the bigger person when
I think we're missing an aspect of the story. There's a versus, which for people who aren't aware, is this within the last year, there's a hip hop trend, and it's even transgressing. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's expanding to other musical genres where basically you got one artist, you pit their music against another artist, and you make a playlist, and whoever playlist it wins the competition wins. So when he says there's a Gucci Man versus Young Jeezy versus, that's what we're talking about. So given those circumstances, why would someone try to murder someone over a musical competition? Or is there some history here that
there's history behind it?
There is a history behind it. And you saw it play out in live fashion where one person still felt some type of way, which is why after the song he dedicated to, they started getting very personal and started playing diss songs towards each other that they had during the era. And one of the diss songs that came up happened to be Gucci Man rapping, explaining what happened in that altercation where he had to kill one of Jeezy's homeboys. And then after the song, Gucci Man starts saying, we're smoking on that nigga. He says his name and he says, we still smoking on him. And Gucci was like, oh, you got to grow up. We're moving on past that. We're past that, bro. We're growing up. You still talking about the same shit.
Who's smoking on who?
Jeezy said that, right?
Some names.
Yeah, he botched the name. Jeezy said that. Gucci Man said we're smoking on Pook.
I think that was who killed who?
Gucci Man killed Jeezy.
Wait, sorry?
He's fucking it up. Gucci Man.
Who killed who?
Gucci Man killed one of Jeezy's homeboys.
Okay. And then who's smoking? Who said he's smoking on
Gucci Man? He said he's smoking on that nigga.
So Gucci killed the man and then said we're smoking on that person.
Yes.
After the verses.
What does it mean to smoke on a person? I've never heard this characterization.
This is a Chicago drill rap reference. When
they smoke on someone is
you say you smoking on somebody, that means you smoking on their dead body. Like you
flexing on someone you did something wrong on. Okay.
Yeah, you killed.
So then Gucci Man killed the person. Well, Gucci Man's people killed the person. Gucci Man's okay.
All right. Let me set the story up for you. Jeezy sent people to kill Gucci Man. Gucci Man then in that altercation killed one of Jeezy's friends.
Okay. And then Gucci Man told Jeezy, "Yo, we smoking on homeboy."
Yeah, he made a whole song on it.
And then Jeezy said, "Yo, you need to grow up. Like you need to move past that." What a piece of shit! He sent someone to die. I don't even want to get into that.
That's years later.
Again, if I was homeboy's cousin, I'd kill that motherfucker.
So now,
I would also agree that maybe he should go to rehabilitation and become a better person and all that stuff. And again, I grew up. I tell you straight up, man. I'm a ghetto fucking bastard. I grew up with a lot of bigoted views. I have a lot of baggage in my life that doesn't make me the functional person that I wish I could be. Mm-hmm. I need to go to rehabilitation. I need to be rehabilitated right now.